The sun was setting on the sleepy town of Willowbrook, casting long shadows over the quiet streets. The evening air, cool and still, seemed almost too calm for what was about to transpire. No one in the neighborhood suspected that the peaceful evening would soon be shattered by a terrifying crime that would send shockwaves through the community for years to come. Willowbrook was known for its safety, its families, children playing in the park, and neighbors who trusted one another without hesitation. But in this town, no one could have imagined that one of their own could be snatched from the safety of their home in the blink of an eye. It was a normal Friday evening. Families gathered for dinner, the children finished their homework, and the streets were filled with laughter and the sounds of the weekend beginning. But then, all of that changed. It all began with a phone call. Olivia Turner, a mother of two, had just finished cooking dinner when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She thought about ignoring it but felt an odd pull to answer. "Hello," she said, her voice carrying the exhaustion of a long day. "Olivia, we have your son," a cold voice responded on the other end. There was no greeting, no introduction, just the chilling announcement that made Olivia's heart drop. "Who is this?" she asked, her breath catching in her throat, the fear already creeping in. "Doesn't matter who I am," the voice replied. "What matters is that we have your son, Jason. If you want him back, you'll do exactly as we say." The line went silent for a moment, and Olivia felt the cold fear of the unknown wash over her. "Don't hang up the phone," the voice continued. "I'm watching you right now." A scream echoed from the kitchen. Olivia spun around to find her 7-year-old son, Jason, standing there, wide-eyed and trembling. But it wasn't him who screamed. It was the voice of the man on the other end of the phone. "Jason!" Olivia gasped, dropping the phone as she rushed to her son, pulling him into her arms. "Stay close to me," she whispered, frantically looking around the room. "Stay close." But Jason was staring at something that wasn't there. Olivia turned back to the phone, but it was already dead. The seconds felt like hours as she clutched her son tighter, trying to make sense of what had just happened. She was no longer listening to the faint noises of her house, the laughter from the other room, or the street outside. All she could hear was the blood rushing in her ears. Who would do this? Why her son? Panic set in, but Olivia had no choice but to act. She grabbed her car keys and bolted out the door, her heart pounding as she prayed that whoever this was, they were just playing a sick joke. But as she neared her car, a dark shadow moved across the yard. She froze. In the dim light, she saw a figure, a man, tall and imposing, darting across the yard toward her car. Olivia didn't think twice. She slammed the car door shut and locked it, breathing heavily, trying to calm her racing heart. But she couldn't stop shaking. She couldn't breathe. She reached for her phone, desperately dialing 911. The dispatcher picked up quickly. 911, what's your emergency? My son has been kidnapped. Olivia gasped. Someone has him. I don't know who they are. I need help. Stay calm, the dispatcher replied, trying to steady her. We're sending a unit to your location right now. Do you have any details? Any possible suspects? Olivia could barely form a coherent sentence. She was terrified for her son's life. And just like that, the call ended. A single text from an unknown number appeared on her screen. If you call the police, your son will never come home. The police arrived moments later, but Olivia knew that every second counted. Her mind was racing as they questioned her. But how could she help them if she didn't even know who had taken Jason? How could she help if she had no leads, no clues, no idea where they were? As the officers searched her home, Olivia stood frozen in the driveway, her eyes locked on the empty house. She heard the officers call out to one another, their voices filled with confusion. "We've got nothing, not a single lead," one officer muttered as he approached her. "No signs of a break-in, nothing unusual in the house." Olivia's mind was reeling. How could there be no signs of a break-in? Jason's favorite toys were scattered across the living room floor, his backpack was still hanging by the door, everything was normal, too normal. Except for the one thing that kept haunting her, the phone call. Hours passed without any new information. The police were working on it, but Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something more sinister was at play. That night, as she sat alone in the dark living room, she received another message on her phone. It read, "Jason is safe for now. But don't get comfortable. If you want him back, you'll follow every command. You won't see him again unless you prove you can be useful. Consider this your first lesson." A chill ran down Olivia's spine as she stared at the message, trying to make sense of it. What did they want from her? What kind of game were they playing? But that was when she noticed it, something she had missed earlier. At the bottom of the message, in the smallest of prints, there was a link. A link to a live stream. With trembling fingers, Olivia clicked it. Her heart stopped. It was Jason. Jason, tied up in a dark room, his eyes wide with fear. The camera was focused on him, his sobs muffled as he tried to free himself. The message at the top of the screen was clear: "This is just the beginning." As Olivia sat frozen, watching the horrific sight of her son's terrified face on the screen, the phone in her hand buzzed again. She looked down. Another message. "Get ready. The real game begins now." The live stream was still playing, showing Jason's tear-streaked face as he struggled against the ropes binding his hands. Olivia could hardly breathe, her hands trembling so violently that she could barely keep her grip on the phone. The room where her son was held was dark, but the faint outline of his small figure against the shadows was enough to make Olivia's heart ache. Her only thought was to get to him, to hold him, to reassure him that everything would be okay. But how could she when the people who had taken him seemed to be everywhere? Watching her, controlling the narrative. She felt paralyzed, her fingers glued to the screen, unable to look away even though the sight of her son, alone and helpless, was driving her mad with panic. Her mind raced. Every second that passed brought her closer to losing him forever. She had to do something. But as Olivia read the text at the bottom of the live stream, the fear set in even deeper. Don't think about involving the police again. There's no one who can help you now. Every move you make is being watched. The clock is ticking. Olivia felt her world crumble. How could they know this much? How could they be so calm, so cruel? The silence on the other end of the phone made her feel as though she was trapped in some twisted game, one that she couldn't escape. It had been 2 hours since the message. 2 hours of unbearable silence, with only the chilling echo of Jason's cries in her mind. Then, her phone buzzed again. It was a text from the same unknown number. "Are you ready for your first task? You have until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning to complete it, or Jason's fate will be sealed." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. What was the task? What kind of twisted game were they playing? She read the message over and over, trying to make sense of it, her thoughts scrambled and erratic. Finally, the next part of the message appeared. It's time to prove you care. A small sacrifice is needed. Olivia swallowed hard, her throat dry as the next line appeared. Your task: steal a specific document from the Willowbrook Police Department. It's in the chief's office. If you fail to do this, Jason will never see daylight again. Her mind was a whirlwind. The police department? The very people who had been trying to find her son were now the ones she was supposed to deceive? She couldn't fathom what this meant. What document could they possibly want? Was this part of some sick revenge plot? Was it related to Jason, or was she simply a pawn in a much larger game? Olivia clenched her fist, her nails digging into her palm. This was not the time to panic. She had to act fast. She had no choice but to comply. With her mind set on the task ahead, Olivia rushed to the car. She tried to steady her breathing, but the weight of what she was about to do made her stomach twist in knots. She wasn't a criminal. She was a mother. A mother who would do anything to save her child. As she drove toward the Willowbrook Police Department, every streetlight seemed to pass by in slow motion. The town that had once felt so safe, so peaceful, now seemed alien to her. Every shadow in the corner of her eye made her jump. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. What if this was a trap? What if they knew she was coming? She glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. The task had to be completed by 6 a.m. She couldn't afford to waste any time. Olivia's grip tightened on the wheel. Her son's life depended on her. The police station loomed ahead, bathed in the harsh glare of streetlights. It was a fortress of sorts, where her every move would be monitored. But she wasn't backing down. She was a mother on a mission. The station was eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the occasional sound of footsteps echoing from the hallways. Olivia's heart raced as she crept through the darkened parking lot, keeping to the shadows. She had no plan. No idea how she was going to break in. But her phone buzzed again, and she froze. Good. You're almost there. You'll find the document in Chief Daniel's office. His keys are on the desk. But there's one catch: his secretary is working late. She's just stepped into the next room. You'll have to get past her without being seen. Olivia's stomach lurched. The secretary? This was it. She had to move fast. She couldn't afford to make a mistake. She scanned the area for any sign of life. The front door to the police station was locked, but there was a side entrance. Quietly, she approached the door and tried the handle. It was unlocked. Just in time, Olivia whispered to herself, before pushing the door open, her breath shallow with anxiety. The hallway was dark, lit only by a few flickering fluorescent lights. The air felt thick with tension. Olivia moved swiftly, her footsteps barely audible against the linoleum floor. She turned the corner and saw the secretary's office just ahead. There was a light on. She held her breath and waited, listening intently. She could hear the faint murmur of someone speaking on the phone. Was it the secretary? Without thinking, Olivia moved toward the chief's office. The door was slightly ajar. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The desk was covered in papers, files scattered everywhere. But her eyes immediately locked on the keychain sitting in the center of the desk. She snatched it up quickly, but then, the sound of a door creaking open made her freeze. Someone was coming. Her heart hammered in her chest as she turned and ducked into the nearest closet. She shut the door as quietly as she could, holding her breath. Through the crack, she could see the silhouette of a figure walking past, but the door remained ajar. The figure stopped. For a second, Olivia thought she had been caught. But then the footsteps faded, and she let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Olivia waited in silence for what felt like hours, though it was only a few minutes. Once she was sure the coast was clear, she slipped out of the closet and quickly approached the desk. She rifled through the drawers, her fingers trembling as she searched for the document. Finally, she found it. It was in a locked drawer, but Olivia quickly picked the lock using the tools she had brought with her. The document was simple, nothing more than a single page with a seal from the Willowbrook Police Department. It had a series of numbers at the bottom, but there was no clear indication of why it was so important. She grabbed it, shoved it into her bag, and headed for the exit. But just as she reached the door, the phone in her pocket buzzed again. "Well done, Olivia. Now get out of there, and don't even think about turning around. Leave the building quietly, and don't alert anyone. We're still watching." Olivia's hands were shaking as she drove home. She couldn't believe she had actually done it. She had stolen from the police, her own town's police department. And for what? To save her son. But as she drove, the unease began to creep in. What was so special about this document? Why did they want it so badly? Her phone buzzed again. "Send the document to this address. We'll be waiting for your next move." As she pulled into her driveway, she realized something was terribly wrong. A car was parked across the street. A black SUV. The same one that had been parked outside her house earlier that day. They were watching her. And just like that, Olivia realized that she had been playing into their hands the entire time. Olivia stepped out of the car, her hands cold with dread. The door to her house was wide open. She hadn't left it open. But the worst part? She heard a noise from inside. The unmistakable sound of Jason's voice. And then, silence. Olivia stood frozen at the doorway, her breath shallow, her heart beating in her chest like a drum. The black SUV was still parked across the street, its engine off, its occupants undoubtedly watching her every move. But it was the silence in her house that sent the deepest chill down her spine. The door was ajar. Olivia had not left it open. She had locked it before leaving. And yet, here it was, wide enough to allow her worst fears to creep in. "Jason!" Her voice trembled as she stepped forward cautiously, her fingers brushing the doorframe. The air inside the house felt thick, suffocating. She called again, louder this time, her voice barely a whisper in the stillness of the night. No answer. The fear gnawed at her insides as she edged toward the living room, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner, every piece of furniture. The house felt wrong, as if it had been violated in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. The furniture, once arranged in familiar, comforting order, seemed displaced, slightly off-kilter, as though someone had been here, moving things, tampering with her world. She could hear faint noises coming from the kitchen, a soft scuff of shoes on the tile, the rustle of something being moved. Olivia's heart pounded harder as she slowly moved toward the kitchen, every nerve screaming for her to run, to escape. But she couldn't. She couldn't leave her son. There, standing in the doorway of the kitchen, was Jason. But he wasn't the child she had left behind. Jason's eyes were empty, hollow. His small body was thin and frail, his clothes disheveled. His skin, once a healthy shade of tan, was pale, almost ghostly. He was standing perfectly still, staring at Olivia with a look that sent a deep chill through her bones. His lips were slightly parted, but no sound came out. His eyes didn't blink. For a moment, Olivia thought she had lost him for good. Her breath caught in her throat as she took a step closer, her arms outstretched, ready to pull him into her arms and protect him. But before she could reach him, Jason raised his hand, his finger pointed toward the table. On the table was a small, black box. The same box that had appeared in the livestream from earlier, the one where Jason had been trapped, bound and helpless. Olivia's mind raced. How was this possible? Had they been watching her this entire time? The silence in the room seemed to stretch on forever. Olivia could feel the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, a primal instinct telling her to leave, to run before it was too late. But something about Jason's eyes, something about the stillness of his body, held her there. "Jason," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "What did they do to you?" Jason didn't respond. Instead, he turned slowly, as if his body had been possessed, and began walking toward the box. The small, black box. Olivia's chest tightened as she rushed forward. "No! Jason, don't touch it!" But her voice was too late. Jason's hand reached the box, and with a slow, deliberate motion, he opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. A letter. And when Jason held it up, the room seemed to grow even colder. Olivia reached for the letter, her hands trembling as she unfolded it. It was from the kidnapper. "I told you that Jason would be safe for now, but you must understand, Olivia. This is not over. You've been playing a game, one that you cannot escape. But there's one final task. A final test." The letter went on, detailing a new set of instructions. Olivia's stomach churned as she read. "The next move is yours. We've been watching you, every step you've taken. The document you stole from the police was the key, and now we know you're ready. But the final step comes with a choice." Olivia's heart stopped as she read the final line. "You will have to sacrifice something. If you don't, we will take Jason once again. You must choose, your son's life or your own. You have until dawn." Olivia could feel the walls closing in on her. The air around her grew thick, oppressive. She read the message again, hoping to find some clue, some way out, but there was none. The choice was cruel. It was unforgivable. She looked at Jason. He still hadn't moved, his eyes locked on hers. Tears sprang to Olivia's eyes as she reached out to him, pulling him into a tight embrace. "I will never choose anything over you, my baby," she whispered, her voice breaking with the weight of everything she had been through. "I will protect you. No matter what." Jason's arms trembled as he wrapped them around her, his face burying into her chest. For a moment, Olivia felt a fleeting sense of peace, until the voice in her head reminded her, the clock was ticking. She had no idea what the kidnapper was really after. Was this some sick game? Or was it about something much bigger, something that involved her in ways she couldn't yet understand? She couldn't allow her son to be torn away again. But she also couldn't bring herself to abandon her own life. She wasn't ready to die. She couldn't leave everything behind, especially not Jason. Her mind raced. There had to be another way. She had to outsmart them. But how? How could she make them believe she was willing to let go of everything she held dear? Suddenly, a thought struck her, sharp and clear. What if she had been playing the game all wrong? What if the sacrifice wasn't just about losing someone? What if it was about giving them exactly what they wanted, only to turn the tables on them? Olivia pulled back slightly, looking at Jason with a mixture of determination and love. "We're getting out of here," she said, her voice steady now, full of resolve. She kissed the top of his head, brushing the strands of hair from his face. "Stay close to me, no matter what. We're going to end this together." Olivia couldn't let the kidnappers win. She had to be smart, careful. The game they were playing was cruel, manipulative, but she wasn't about to let it destroy her or her son. She turned toward the door, her hand gripping Jason's tightly. But as they approached the entrance, her phone buzzed once again. She hesitated before answering, dread filling her stomach. The message that appeared on the screen read, "Time's up, Olivia. You've made your choice. We'll be waiting." But there was something else. The location. A place Olivia hadn't seen in years. Her old family cabin in the woods. It was too much of a coincidence. This wasn't just about her son anymore. It was about something darker, something more personal. And Olivia knew that it was time to confront whatever this nightmare was once and for all. She had made her choice, and now she would take back control of her life. But as she turned to leave, the door slammed shut behind her. Jason's terrified scream echoed through the house, sending a chill down Olivia's spine. She whipped around, but Jason was gone. In his place, the black box lay on the floor. And it was ticking. Thank you so much for reading this intense chapter of The Kidnap, A Nightmare Unfolds. If you enjoyed this heart-pounding journey, please consider liking this story and subscribing for more thrilling episodes. Your support helps us bring even more captivating tales to life. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for the next part as we dive deeper into the suspense and drama. See you in the next chapter.